The only thing I fear about this series is Texas Rangers are playing with a chip on their shoulder after they didn't win the American League West. There are all those rumors about them partying and blah, blah, blah. And I think they took that personally. Obviously, we saw what they did against the Rays. They went into Tropicana Field, which is not a hostile environment by any means, but absolutely smacked Tampa Bay. So they have momentum coming into the series. I think that's one area where when you look at these top seeds, they are at a slight disadvantage. The Texas Rangers coming in, sweeping the Rays to play Baltimore. The Orioles haven't played in a week, so that's something to look at there. But when I look at this Orioles team, they're very good. And the thing that I was cautious about, at least with them, was their pitching early on. But the pitching staff's been very good in the second half of the season. They have a 3.89 collective ERA between the starters and the bullpen. And that is going to be the area that wins them this series. Both teams can hit the baseball. We saw it with Texas against Tampa. We've seen it with Baltimore all year long. And the thing I love about the Orioles also, make the case they're a young team. They don't have the playoff experience, but they know how to win at home and on the road. They've done it consistently throughout the year. Their records were very even. 49 wins at home, actually more wins on the road this season to get to 101. I think the young core of the Orioles is going to come through. I don't think it's going to be a 3-game series. I don't think it's going to be a 4-game series. I really do think this will go 5. And Baltimore will close it off at Camden Yards. It's going to take a lot for them, but I think it's a good price. Not my favorite series price, even though it is minus 115. I think there's better options. I'd rather lay more juice with a team like the Dodgers against the Diamondbacks here, but I do like Baltimore to move on to the ALCS and probably face the Houston Astros. Yeah, I don't think we can put the Minnesota Twins and say they're going to win this series based off what they did against the Toronto Blue Jays. Yes, they played great. They swept the Blue Jays. But when you look at Toronto, they've collapsed in the playoff every year in the Vladimir Guerrero, Bo Bichette era, right? They're not a good playoff team. The Twins won their first playoff series since 2002. But I think they're going to get smacked by the Houston Astros. Houston knows how to win the playoffs. It's that simple. They have a great home environment, and they've done it consistently over the years. When you look at their offense, too, they are a slightly better offense. They have about the same pitching staff in this spot, but I think the playoff experience is going to make the difference. One thing to be concerned about Houston, they were 39-42 at home this season. Twins were about 500 on the road, but another factor that plays into Houston's favor is they are battle tested. It came down to the last day of the season to win the American League West, and they played some really good teams in that division with Texas and Seattle, even Los Angeles. I mean, they were battle tested throughout the year. The Minnesota Twins, I can't say the same thing about them in the American League Central. An 87-win team in the American League Central means a lot less than a 90-win team in the AL West. It's going to take a lot of time here. I think this series could go 4. That's where I'm having it end. But I do like the Houston Astros to win it. And also a very fair price, I believe around minus 150 for that series. This is going to be a very fun series to watch in general. And we know the Phillies can beat the Braves in the postseason. That's another thing playing into the Phillies' favor here. I'm going to take the plus money with the Philadelphia Phillies to win this series. How many times do we see the top dog come into the playoffs and not win? Just in my head alone, since I'm a Boston guy, I go back to the Celtics. They obviously didn't come through last year. You go to the Bruins. They didn't come through last year. Both teams went in as heavy favorites to win the championship in their respective leagues, and it didn't happen. I think we could see a similar situation with the Braves here. Philadelphia Phillies have a really good team. I was sitting there watching the game the other night and looking at their roster. If they get good pitching from Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola, as they did against Miami, now granted, Miami is not Atlanta by any means, if they get good pitching from those guys, the offense is amazing here. You have Bryce Harper, who is a superhuman. You have Kyle Schwarber, who's hitting tons of home runs out of the leadoff spot, which even though he's batting sub 200, he still hits a lot of home runs. You have Trey Turner, who's come along, JT Realmuto. Bryson Stott had the grand slam the other night. There's so much talent on this Philadelphia Phillies offense from top to bottom, and they have one of the toughest home atmospheres to play in the playoffs, and they've consistently played well at their home ballpark throughout their years in the playoffs. So that's another thing to look at. The Braves have the team, obviously. You have Matt Olson, you have Ronald Acuna Jr., but don't look at this team and say they're unbeatable, because Philly can go in there and absolutely win this series. There's no doubt about it. For the plus money, it's worth taking. I do think Atlanta has the upper edge, but for the plus money with how talented this Phillies roster is, there's no reason not to take a little sprinkle on them to win this series and get to the NLCS. Yeah, I don't mind laying the 205 here. I go back to the Phillies versus Marlins series. Phillies were minus 200 in that one. I laid that because it is a little risk putting that much down, but at the same time, too, it's a much better team. Los Angeles Dodgers have the biggest mismatch against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks were exceptional against the Milwaukee Brewers, but I wasn't super high on the Brewers coming to that series. I did have them winning it, but they haven't been a great offensive team. They haven't been consistent offensively, and Arizona had clutch hits and high leverage situations, and that's exactly what winning in the playoffs is all about. So you have to give them some credit there. But I do think they fall to the mighty Dodgers. Dodgers 53-28 at home this season. There's a couple guys that they need to stop. One being Christian Walker and then Corbin Carroll. Walker was huge in that series. He had some very clutch hits, but the Dodgers have some guys that can match that intensity with Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. And also their starting pitching. You have Clayton Kershaw going in game one. That's a guy that's probably going to go out there and give you 6 really good innings in this spot. Again, the lack of experience for Arizona is going to play into this. Dodgers have a ton of playoff experience. Now, they're known for melting down in the big moments in the playoffs, but I still think they have guys that know how to win. They're hungry. And credit to them, too, for staying under the luxury tax and getting back to the spot, being one of the top dogs once again in the National League. What they've done over the years is very impressive, and I'm going to lean towards them in this spot, even for heavy price.